begin with a question that has been with me for a long time. Today, we are achieving more than ever before. We have surrounded us with amazing systems, curated productivity apps, tools, and clearer matrix. Yet, we are all constantly stressed, exhausted, and strangely disconnected. The question gets more interesting is because under the question on the surface, everything seems to be perfect. We are achieving more, organizations are achieving success, productivity has been improving. But under the current, there's something that lies which has got unresolved conflict and misalignment. Here, it brings me to a point to know why does that happen? It happens when our choices are not aligned with our context. It creates internal conflict. Pullman strike in 1894 is the evidence that shows that when human breaking point is achieved, it creates a problem that causes strike. That breaking point not only paused the people, but also stopped the work and the systems cracked. What happened next was not removal of the breaking point, but just subtle changes. Better systems were improved. Productivity matrix were introduced in a fancy terms. More tools, more apps, more systems, and more processes, all aimed to ensure that productivity improves and organizations become more efficient. Surprisingly, it worked. It worked magically. Achievements increased significantly. But there was constantly a pattern that was being observed. The pattern which I was able to decode. More achievement, less alignment. More success, less fulfillment. I was able to decode it in a sentence. When your choices are aligned with your context, fulfillment follows. The space where the alignment is achieved is called the productive mindset. Reflecting within, I was able to connect it with the day that changed my life, 26 July 2005. Mumbai saw its extreme floods. I was living in slums. I had 8.5 feet water covering my house, and everything that we had was lost in that floods. What remained was fear. Progress was survival. Education became the urgency, and work was non-negotiable. I started working hard, educated myself, and in the journey, years passed. My decisions and my choices were driven by fear. As the years passed, I started observing that the conversations were more transactional. People were just a mere resource, and productivity was something that was being measured. And as they say, it was a hustle. We all do it. Hustle is the new normal. And that got me stuck a few years later when I realized at a moment, hustle, as we call, or the best practices that we say as a label, what for? At what cost? And to achieve what? I started observing around and observed that people were running a race with no finish line. People were constantly overachieving, overthinking. To do what? Not clear. And that is when I started conducting my research. During my research, I worked with various organizations, various teams, and started inquiring them with a different question. Instead of asking them, how are you performing? I replaced the question, how are you feeling while you're performing? To my surprise, 8 out of 10 people replied they are facing fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of not achieving, fear of disappointing, and different kind of fears. Fears could be different, but the underlying current was the same: misalignment, not fulfillment. It started to grow upon me as I was thinking and doing my research further, that why does this happen? What is the cause? And that is where I understood that fear was draped as productivity. And under that, our choices were being made. Our decisions took place. And what was the result? The result was constant stress, constant anxiety, disengaged, and what we now call silent assignment or silent resignation. And that brings me to a point that where is the answer to this question? Well, the answer lies in a very simple science that we all experience every day. Let me explain it to you. Our desires, our dreams are full of emotions. They are born from the heart. But when we make choices, the logical mind starts to act. We start to think, we observe, and the choices are made based on past experiences and fear. When that happens, the mind gets activated and we make a choice. The point here is, when your context is not aligned with your choices, or you take choices which are not aligned with your context, there is a misalignment. And that misalignment causes constant conflict within yourself, causing you chronic stress. And we all know, and we have all heard multiple news globally, when stress is there, people experience health failures, relationship failures, and to a point, losses of life. And it's not new to us. We've been seeing that from ages, but recently that happens more often. The solution, the decode program that I did is very simple. When your choices are aligned with your context, I call it the productive mindset. The space where this alignment happens, that is productive mindset. I believe we all are capable to take the right choices. I believe we are all capable to experience alignment. I believe we are all blessed to experience fulfillment. It starts with just one thought. I want to align myself. Having said that, I urge you to take a leap of faith and create a society where we create an ecosystem where outputs are measured not to be rewarded, but outputs are measured to see inner alignment. Because as we move forward, and if more and more people start caring about internal alignment and inner alignment of their teams, organizations will be stronger. Organizations will be more fulfilled. So instead of asking a question, how to build high-performing teams, let's ask a question, how do we build a team that performs higher, but not with fear? I invite you all to start building the productive mindset one step at a time, because together we can create an ecosystem where output is not affected by people's behavior, but inner alignment takes care of the decisions that we take, leading us to fulfillment. Because if we create that society, we are looking forward for a stress-free society which lives thrives on fulfillment. Thank you so much. I invite you all to build the productive mindset.